Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? BlizzCon is already absolutely humongous. This is sort of a response news video to what we've been seeing at BlizzCon, what we're looking to see come out of the rest of Overwatch at BlizzCon, and more specifically we'll be tackling the news of who is going to be on the roster with the upcoming 6 new heroes that Jeff Kaplan has mentioned. So, let's get started. Out of BlizzCon, as of when I'm writing this at least, what we've seen so far is only a brand new hero, Ashe, who we've never seen or heard of before. This does happen to break the trend of hero speculation that we've built over the last 2 years. Usually they sort of put out a hero that we've heard nothing about, and then a hero that we have heard something about. So let's talk about Ashe first. Now, you've probably seen what she can do, and if you're like me, you're probably wondering about some numbers specifically with what her capabilities are, because if we look at specifically Moira's introduction video where it showed her coalescence being able to hear through Pharah's barrage, which we clearly know that it can't do. The numbers aren't specifically available to me yet since she'll be releasing on the PTR probably tomorrow or Tuesday. By the way, I will be putting out a video detailing all of her numbers and best combos when she does hit live. What I think is interesting is Bob, because he essentially acts as another teammate and every effect in the game can be applied to him, so it'll be really interesting to see if having that numbers advantage will actually be effective or not. Enough about Ashe though, let's talk about what we'll be getting out of the rest of BlizzCon. Now, usually we see not only a new hero, we often get a map coupled with that new hero. Last year it was Blizzard World, which was completely unexpected and quite the pleasant surprise for fans of Blizzard's other games. This year we're likely to see a new map for a region of the world that has not quite been touched yet. My vote is still heavily on the hopes that at some point in my lifetime we'll get a map for somewhere in Canada, but as all evidence points to suggest, Blizzard isn't quite aware that Canada is a country from what we can tell. In all seriousness though, one of the most likely candidates for a new map release at BlizzCon is somewhere in Sweden, since Brigitte and Torb have not gotten their homeland represented in a map form yet. Another option is one of the old cut maps that had some artwork done for them but never saw a release into the final game. I'll make an entire video on all of those maps later on, but personally I could see the Kyoto Temple old concept getting revived, although it is a little bit similar to the Busan map we received recently. Whatever it is, I'm sure it's getting released on the day I'm releasing this video, so let's just move on to the really important stuff, which is the supposed 6 brand new heroes that Jeff Kaplan says the team is currently working on. 6 brand new heroes, yes! Check your ears, do a little bit of a reality check, because I can assure you, you are not dreaming. You heard me right. Blizzard, after just announcing Hero 29, says that they already have Heroes 30 to 35 in the works. They have the concepts at least set in stone. That's what I heard from Jeff Kaplan himself. This obviously brings up a swarm of questions, like what kinds of heroes are we getting? Is this hero release schedule getting changed? And if so, how many heroes can we expect in a year now? As well as, well, is this what Blizzard has been working on instead of the game modes that have been oddly absent in the past couple of events? I know Blizzard works hard on their events, but some things, as a lot of players have noticed, aren't quite there. A map reskin and a couple of legendary skins is of course really exciting when the event launches, but the game modes are what keep people coming back to play, and replaying them for the 3rd time tends to raise a couple of eyebrows. It's my personal belief that yes, this is the reason we've seen an inexplicable odd absence of anything massive in the past little while. If Blizzard's going to be pumping out new heroes over the next year, that is something that can potentially save the game, keeping it super fresh. And so I'll be answering all of these questions right now. So who are these new heroes going to be? Well, we know Ashe is Hero 29, but we're here to talk about Heroes 30 to 35, one of which is clearly going to be Echo, and I'll talk a little bit more about her later on. Other than that, we have some potentials like people from the Mecha Squad, specifically Demon, since she has ties with D.Va after they played on the same esports team together. There's also a really convincing subreddit thread that I've actually bookmarked this time so I don't lose it, that talks about the old Talon leader from last year's Archive event, Antonio, and he could apparently end up finding his way into being a hero in the future. I'll put a link to that down below, but I'll also talk about it in a future video. What kinds of heroes are we getting? Well, Jeff Kaplan, in the same breath that he talked about 6 new heroes, says that he recognizes there is a massive problem in Overwatch, as there's this huge imbalance in the number of DPS heroes to tanks and healers, as in, there are more DPS heroes than tanks and healers combined. In a game where the majority of the player base tries to fit themselves into a system of 2 DPS, 2 healers, and 2 tanks, this leaves a much more limited option to those who choose to play tanks or choose to play healers. After Ashe, who we can clearly see is a new DPS hero, I think we can safely assume that the next 6 heroes will be 3 tanks and 3 healers, which would make quite a bit of sense in my mind. Another option is for 4 healers and 2 tanks, or 4 tanks and 2 healers, but more likely for the 4 healers because there are more tanks than healers right now. Either way, having 6 more healers or tanks still won't technically be able to balance out the roster entirely, since there will still be 16 DPS heroes, but at least there will be less DPS than healers and tanks combined at that point. We saw another character announced, which was very clearly going to be a hero by the name of Echo in McCree's new cinematic. Echo, from what we can tell, is most likely to be another support candidate. I mean, she has that sleek look that kind of reminds me of Mercy a bit. She looks quite frail, and floating isn't exactly the best way to be tanking. You know, the idea of tanking is sort of being a heavy, very grounded meat shield or literal shield to block damage. So my bet is her being the next hero that should end up being a type of support. Let me know what you guys think of Echo. What kind of role do you think she'll fall into, and what kind of abilities would she have? Be sure to drop your ideas down below. The next question is, what on earth is the hero schedule going to look like from now on? I mean, they can't just say they're starting to line up the next 6 freaking heroes, and then have us wait like 2 years to get through them all. You can't go out and publicly say, yes, we're currently working on 6 heroes, and then hope we forget about it and be pleasantly surprised that we're getting one of them all the way down in March. That's just not the best marketing in my opinion. I think Blizzard's planning on ramping up the hero production from 3 heroes a year to 4 a year, which doesn't seem like a huge jump, but it means we have an entire month less to wait before we see a new hero each time. The reason is that Blizzard, I believe, is starting to focus a lot more on their lore aspect in Overwatch, hence why we're not seeing the game modes being added, hence why the Archives event got such a massive budget and upgrade from the year before. I think we're in for something pretty big in the near future, ladies and gentlemen. The last question was going to be, are these heroes going to be made with the same level of depth and detail as the ones we've received so far? Well, depending on your attitude, there are some heroes that were newer releases that not everyone thinks were great additions, Brigitte being one of those controversial newer heroes, but as far as new abilities and uniqueness goes, building off of older things isn't always a bad idea. Look at Orisa for an example, where almost all of her abilities are taken from previous heroes and altered, but she's still a fun and arguably sometimes meta hero. What we're looking for is something really unique like Doomfist or Sombra, who had completely unique abilities that held no resemblance to any others in the game yet. I think Blizzard really knows what they're doing with their new heroes, and honestly I'm sure we will see something really interesting popping up in the near future. That's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I want to know your opinions on who will be the next 6 heroes, and even if Echo will be a hero, since it's looking likely, but there's not really a way to confirm any of this as of yet. Of course, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to drop a like, as it's hugely appreciated and helps me out a ton. At the same time, if you enjoy Overwatch, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification icon so you never miss another Overwatch video. This is Quarbit signing off, and as always, have a fantastic day.